Mother is the heroine of a doting husband novel. I was conceived only so my fathers could indulge their peculiar pleasures. The first time I saw Mother, Father Gu held her in his arms, feeding her medicine while her face flushed and tears welled in her eyes. The last time I saw Mother, she was emaciated to bones, dragging herself up from the basement, leaving bloody footprints with each step. Run, Zoe. They're planning to groom the next doting wife. With one hand supporting Mother, I deftly flicked open my butterfly knife with the other. Don't be afraid, Mother. They're heading straight to hell. I was born into a twisted family with 3 fathers. Each father adored Mother deeply, calling her baby and dressing her in princess gowns. Over 30 servants attended to Mother's every need and comfort. Mother's jewelry collection alone could buy an entire city. Everyone believed Mother was blessed, calling her the happiest woman in the world. Yet no one loved me. Not even a single servant would look me in the eye. To protect Mother's health, the fathers originally didn't want her to have children, but someone got carried away during their games, and Mother accidentally became pregnant. Father Gu flew into a rage and immediately wanted Mother to have an abortion to get rid of me. Mother disagreed, pressing a kitchen knife against her chest. If you won't let me keep this child, then I'll die too. The fathers were frantic with worry, until Father Xie said, with a half smile, I've never tasted car's milk before. I'm quite curious what it's like. Their beast, like eyes lit up, and they instantly reached a consensus. They didn't want my life, nor were they intimidated by Mother's threat of suicide. They wanted to taste what a pregnant woman was like. Before I turned 5, I had a nanny who doted on me. She would pick me up from kindergarten and stay up all night when I had a fever. She would cover my eyes when the fathers played their games with Mother, holding me tearfully with aching heart. The day before she disappeared, I cautiously asked her, "Can I call you Mother?" She froze for a moment, then looked at me gently, her eyes holding a depth I couldn't comprehend. "Young miss, I am not your mother." The next day, Father dismissed her. The most important person in my life vanished suddenly, without even a goodbye. It was much later that I learned the reason. That day, Mother had overheard my words. She told no one, but secretly wept for a long time. Her constitution was unusual. She had no control over her tears. When Father discovered her sorrow, he reviewed all the surveillance footage from the estate. They found the cause, and they resolved it. From then on, no servant in the household would approach me willingly. Their duties, aside from keeping me alive, were to do nothing beyond ensuring my survival. My closeness to others would sadden Mother, so I was left utterly alone. 3 months later, I saw Mother again. That was the first time I had ever seen her in my memory, and little me was so shocked I couldn't speak. Shocked that my mother could be so beautiful, as stunning as a celestial fairy, with every strand of hair breathtakingly gorgeous. Shocked that she was being held in Father Gu's arms, her robe wide open, her gaze dazed, curled up like a child while taking medicine. Back then, I didn't understand the awkwardness of that scene, yet I felt inexplicably uneasy. Even after the servants hinted repeatedly, I couldn't bring myself to open my mouth and call her Mother. It wasn't until Mother's expression gradually cleared, her mouth agape, as she looked at me in astonishment, that she cried out in surprise, "Zoe?" Her face instantly flushed red as she frantically adjusted her clothes and pushed Father Gu away. The moment her feet touched the ground, tears began to fall from her eyes. "My child, Zoe." Her hands trembled slightly as she stroked my hair, her whole being seemingly sinking into endless repression and agony. Father Gu walked over calmly and helped Mother up with gentlemanly grace. "All right, you've seen the child now. No more tantrums." Mother's glistening tears still clung to her face as she numbly shifted her gaze away from me. I heard her say slowly, "Seeing Zoe makes me sad unconsciously. Minzhou, could we send her to boarding school?" Father Gu held her in his arms and said dotingly, "Fine, whatever you say, my dear." Before being led away by the servant, Mother received permission and came over to hug me. Her scalding tears fell onto my collar, and I heard her whisper very softly, "Zoe, I'm sorry." Mother's scent was complex, a pleasant fragrance tinged with a hint of fishy sweetness. This scent I remembered for a very, very long time. On the first day of elementary school, I saw a familiar figure from behind. The silhouette looked exactly like Nanny. I froze for a second, then quickly ran out. I didn't dare call her mother, only screaming hoarsely, "Mrs. Zhao, please don't go. I beg you, Mrs. Zhao, don't abandon me." But I was too small. I couldn't catch up with anyone. The bodyguard lifted me like a bag, and I watched helplessly as that figure disappeared. I knew that in this lifetime, I would never see Mrs. Zhao again. Some people live for a long time, only becoming numb when they finally realize their lives are filled with misfortune. But I had already grown numb the moment I knew nothing good would ever happen in my life. Like a puppet, I entered middle school. My desk mate was named June, a very sunny and adorable little girl. June would secretly bring me her favorite snacks, saying I was too thin and needed to eat more delicious things. She would draw on my homework notebook mountains, rivers, and a white, bearded son grandpa. She loved reading novels and had many forbidden love stories about domineering CEOs in her desk. Zoe, the female leads in these books are so lucky. So many handsome boys like them. Look, the female lead has a unique physique. Her entire body is sensitive, and at 40, her skin is still as tender as a baby's. Wow, they're fighting over her. Adults make choices. I'm a middle schooler. I'll take them all. I, who rarely show emotion to the outside world, suddenly shivered, remembering Mother's swollen, red eyes. I abruptly snatched June's novel and tore it apart frantically. This will ruin you. This novel will ruin you. It'll ruin your daughter. Ruin your whole life. My crazed appearance frightened June into tears. She sat on the chair screaming that she'd never play with me again. As I stared at the mess on the floor, slowly suppressing the unease in my heart, I gripped June's head and glared at her fiercely. Don't be a pampered wife. Don't be a man's appendage. Don't let yourself be caged. Don't be a pampered wife. Don't be a man's appendage. Don't let yourself be caged. I repeated it over and over, like an emotionless robot, until several teachers rushed in and pulled me away. June looked at me with terrified eyes. I'll never forget that day. I lost my only best friend. On the day, June transferred schools. The driver brought me back home. All three fathers were there, and Mother was dressed up like a goddess. Father Xia held Mother by the waist, smiling with a wicked charm. Zoe is 12 now, a young lady already. Mother abruptly stood up, took 2 flustered steps toward me, then stopped. Zoe, you mustn't fight with classmates next time. I'll let it slide this once, but next time I will have to punish you. In her panic, her eyes glistened with unshed tears, shimmering and on the verge of falling. Only then did I notice that Mother was unusually wearing a high-necked, long, sleeved outfit today. On her neck, accidentally exposed, were faint ligature marks. I looked up, staring at her so directly for the first time. Mother, did you read a lot of doting husband novels and forced love stories when you were young? All these years, you've never gone out alone. Even every meal is arranged by the fathers. Do you evenly? I didn't get to finish my sentence. Father Goose stormed over, clamped a hand over my mouth, and tucked me under his arm. Ethan Moo, Zoe is starting to rebel. You're responsible for disciplining her. That day was the first time I heard my mother scream. She rushed toward me, out of control, only to be brutally restrained by the man. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her usually lifeless eyes blaze with intense hatred. I watched her kick and bite with all her strength, until Sean Xia pinned her on the couch and stripped her clothes off. I heard him deliberately raise his voice. Darling, you're being naughty. You need to be disciplined too. Mother's body was covered in marks. Her wrists, her neck, even her thighs, all pink, fresh bruises that hadn't yet faded. Fear and numbness intertwined, creeping over me bit by bit. I didn't struggle. My head and hands hung limp, and I was carried upstairs by Ethan Moo like a dead weight. A strange thought crossed my mind. The name Crane. It sounded so clean and vast. Giving him such a name is truly disgusting. Ethan Moo was the most sinister and peculiar of the 3 men. He enjoyed watching Mother suffocate in his palm, only to release her at the most extreme moment. He did this to savor the thrill of control. He took the greatest pleasure in seeing strong-willed women become docile and submissive under his influence, molded to his desires. He threw me onto the large bed and stood at the headboard, staring at me with predatory intensity. Xiaoyu, I remember you were very obedient as a child. I slowly sat up, looking at him with utter contempt and disdain. Cut the crap. You never saw me when I was little. He didn't respond, turning instead to retrieve many items from the cabinet. Tape, ropes, blindfolds, and many things I couldn't even recognize. I bit my lip, struggling to suppress the trembling throughout my body. Dad, after the punishment, could you give me some money? All of my classmates have money to buy things they like, but I don't. Ethan Mu wrapped the crimson rope around his hand, curling his lips into what he thought was a charming smile. So, Xiao, you just wanted attention, didn't she? In men's eyes, the most easily understood form of a woman is one that is beautiful, naive, pure, vain, weak. They prefer to pick, from countless descriptors, the one most advantageous to them. For example, rebellious and lonely. I smiled too, curving my lips just like his, and slowly extended both hands. After Ethan Mu left the room, he placed a black card on the bedside table. I waited quietly as the maids entered, their eyes mixed with scorn and contempt, then deftly untied the restraints on my hands and feet. As for me, I just wiped the tears from my face and clutched the black card firmly in my palm without hesitation. I was too submissive. My obedience bored Ethan Mu almost to disinterest, and he left in a huff, utterly disappointed upon seeing my gaunt body. With Ethan Mu's lukewarm response, their focus wouldn't be on me in the coming days. I withdrew cash from several different banks. That night, I shaved off my long hair and tightly wrapped my body with cloth strips. I went to the city's largest underground fight club. On the chaotic, blood-stained arena, one ruthless desperado after another took the stage. I narrowed my eyes, studying them carefully, until one person appeared, making my blood boil instantly. It was a girl, not tall, but rather petite, with a healthy wheat-colored complexion, yet she fought with extraordinary ferocity, each strike aimed directly at vital points. Mesmerized, I smiled at the scars covering her bare arms. The girl was Jade Jean, with a buzz cut and thick calluses on her palms and knuckles. She took the money I offered without hesitation. All right, miss, I'll train as you instructed, I said, Vort by deliberata vort. Just leave me with a breath of life. If I die, you won't get the rest of the money. If I live well here but die by an enemy's hand, you still won't get the rest of the money. Only then did she look up and study me seriously. That depends on how much hardship you can endure. Those three men were quite pleased with my behavior, skipping studies, smoking, drinking, shaving my head, and sleeping through classes. The teacher tried to discipline me twice, then simply gave up and moved me to the back row. Every night, Jade Jean would take me to various underground fighting rings. Some opponents she paid for, others she handpicked. She'd always be straddling her motorcycle, coolly saying, "Go on, don't die." Once, 3 of my ribs were broken, my head spinning and ears ringing. She just watched indifferently, then dragged me to a back alley clinic. I don't know if I was truly tough or if I'd inherited Mother's rapid healing ability. No matter how badly I was beaten, I never died. Lying on that grimy operating table, I grinned at Jade Jean. No need to run 10 kilometers tomorrow. She looked at me with a complicated expression, layers of confusion swirling in her eyes. "Young miss, what kind of grudge do you even hold?" I said. "The grudge of being stripped of my right to be human." Jade Jean is 22 this year, with a vegetative younger sister lying in bed. We were both left behind children, with no one to care for us. The village had to come several times to tell my grandpa that if we didn't go to school, our family's poverty-stricken household status would be revoked. My grandma was simple-minded, unable to even take care of herself. If she undercooked the food, my grandpa would beat her. He'd tie her up with a belt and whip her. As a child, my nightmares were filled with that dark little room and the sight of my grandma being lashed. Later, That nightmare transformed into the shadow of my grandpa, pushing the door open at night. She tilted her head, feigning nonchalance. To protect me, my sister was beaten into a vegetative state. So, young miss, live a few more years. Your money is the easiest to earn here. From that day on, she no longer just sent me off to compete. Instead, she began earnestly teaching me some of her experience. Women are naturally weaker in strength than men, so remember, relying on brute force is your last resort. When unarmed, aim for the eyes, nose, or groin with a blade. Target the arteries. If you can't neutralize their force in the first move, the ensuing fight will inevitably put you at a disadvantage. I nodded. I know, I only have one chance. If I fail, they'll undoubtedly use every method to break me into the weakest, most harmless version of myself. There would be no coming back from that. As I grew older, I inherited more and more of my mother's traits. For instance, my body is extremely sensitive. I feel pain 5 times more intensely than others under the same force. My recovery ability is astonishingly beyond scientific explanation. No matter how badly I'm sunburned, my skin returns to fair and smooth within a week. No matter how badly I'm beaten, my injuries heal significantly by the next day. My features grew increasingly like my mother's, becoming so strikingly beautiful that even Jade Jean found it unbelievable. Expressionless, I wrapped the chest binder around myself and put on the boxing gloves. You might not believe it, but my entire world is a doting husband novel. At 14, I saw my prearranged fate unfold at school. Marcus Gu brought his son to the high school I attended. As a school trustee and devoted father, he addressed the entire faculty and student body during Monday's flag raising ceremony. Teachers listed his charitable deeds, speaking of his contributions across various fields with boundless admiration. Meanwhile, Marcus Gu, in a tie and glasses, looking every bit the respectable gentleman, declared, "Children are our future, the purest of canvases, and learning is the foundation upon which you build that future. I hope all students will stay true to their original aspirations and pursue their dreams with unwavering determination. Gu Corporation will open its doors, awaiting the day you grow into your talents." Watching the teachers and students around me gazing up in worship, I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Heedless of my image, for the first time, I realized that my father Gu had his own wife, his own son, and was a philanthropist who built his image around loving his spouse. He said children are the future, the purest of all. Ha ha ha, how hilarious. Marcus Gu's son, Zeke Gu, inherited his father's arrogant and overbearing flaws, always radiating confidence and composure. At the end of his self-introduction, he cast a viper-like gaze at me and smiled cryptically. I believe the days ahead will bring me great joy. The newly bought butterfly knife lay obediently in my hand, flicking into various shapes with a twist of my wrist. Zeke stared at me, and I watched him with equal interest. He wondered how special a girl like me, inheriting a unique constitution, would taste, and I thought, I want to kill him. How could my father have other children? Zeke's methods were cliché. He sent many to bully me, spreading slander, stealing my belongings, isolating me, even hiring tough girls to beat me up. They locked me in the bathroom, stripped me naked, took photos of my panic, and whipped my chest with a ruler. They formed a circle, waiting for me to break down in despair so they could signal their master. But I didn't. I just looked at them and laughed. The harder they hit me, the more I laughed, until finally, I bit down on one girl's nose, my mouth filled with blood, and still I laughed. They were terrified of me, frantically dragging the injured girl away while pointing and screaming madwoman. I casually picked up the clothes from the floor, dipped them in the blood, and drew a big smiling face on my cheek. It was at that moment Zeke, who walked over, leaning against the wall behind the restroom, lighting a cigarette. "You're more interesting than I imagined." As smoke rings drifted from his lips, I slowly approached and slapped the cigarette from his mouth. My pinky nail left a bloody scratch on his face. School rules, no smoking. As I walked away, I heard Zeke spew a string of curses under his breath. He stared at my retreating figure in disbelief, finally choking out a single sentence after a long pause. Don't you want to know why you and your mother are so irresistible to men? I spat out the blood in my mouth and halted my steps. Because you and your mother are born whores, meant to be fucked. Your bodies can make us healthier, younger. When you turn 18, you'll become our plaything. You'll be begging me through tears. He walked over, drew close, and whispered these words slowly into my ear. With utter contempt and insult in his tone, I used every ounce of strength to hold myself together. The pain from the bullying moments ago faded from my awareness. Only boundless rage surged through my heart and flooded my mind. Zeke looked at my expression and chuckled himself. Wouldn't it be better to become a pampered canary for us elites? Go ask your mother. Doesn't she enjoy it? You'll never want for food or drink. Luxury bags are yours for the taking, and whatever grade of jewelry catches your eye, I can snap it up for you instantly. You'll live a life beyond what most people could ever imagine. Shall you? You've never truly suffered. If you and your mother had clawed your way out of the slums like lowlifes, you'd understand how good we are to you. A clammy, cold sweat broke out across my neck and back, and I clenched my jaw so hard I nearly drew blood from my gums. Right now, I have over a dozen ways to kill him. I could strangle him with this garment, draw a blade, and plunge it into his carotid artery, or beat him to death with my bare fists. But I can't. I can't expose myself at this moment. So I crouched down, wrapped my arms around my knees, and slowly curled inward, shrinking into a feeble, pitiable posture, curling into the shape of someone utterly crushed by him. Finally satisfied, Zeke reached out and gently stroked my back. Don't be afraid. Your big brother will treat you well and protect you. I couldn't hold back any longer. I shoved him away, dashed back to the bathroom, and vomited. That night, I had Jade Jean switch opponents, and I mercilessly crippled that vicious adversary. With Zeke around, my daytime sleep hours dwindled significantly. He tirelessly dragged me to various events, waiting for others to humiliate me so he could step in as my defender. Mockery, forced drinking, cake smashing, and shoe cleaning antics became routine. Zeke called it obedience training. I seized these opportunities to plant miniature listening devices on nearly every person and in every venue. Over nearly 3 years, I'd used Ethan Moo's money for numerous investments, losing some, asking for more, siphoning off the profits. Soon, I assembled a world-class hacker team on the dark web. Unbeknownst to them, I gathered scandalous secrets from half the city's elite families. The villa's surveillance system was the first to be hacked. It took me weeks to muster the courage to watch all the cruel abuse Mother endured. They spoke freely about her, mocking her past gentleness and current aloofness. If it weren't for her special physique, she wouldn't even compare to that young model we found last time. Xia rested one arm on the back of the sofa while swirling a glass of red wine with the other. How's Ziku's training of Xiaoyu coming along? When she's a bit older, we'll still need to have her checked. If her physical condition is like her mother's, then we'll have a new toy. Marcus Gu had just finished dressing and lazily tied his tie into a knot. What does a child know? Better wait a while longer and handle ourselves. What about this one? Marcus Gu clicked his tongue and said casually, for Xiaoyu's sake, she's becoming more and more disobedient. Last time she nearly killed old Mu. If she finds out we're targeting Xiaoyu, I'm afraid she'll go mad. When the time comes, deal with her in advance. Xia took a sip of wine. Back then, we spent considerable effort to break her. What a shame. The tough ones were more fun back in those days. But now, as I exited the video, someone from the team sent me an encrypted message. Boss, Marcus Gu is hosting a gathering on Isle of Z early next month. They've recruited many minors, and your name is on the list. Your mother has been found too, in the villa's basement. No surveillance there. I replied, understood. Replace the school's surveillance feed with the prepared footage. After receiving confirmation that the plan was proceeding smoothly, my hands trembling, I smashed the computer in front of me. Then, In front of the whole class, I piled my books and clothes together and set them on fire. The fire alarm blared shrilly. Everyone stared at me as if I were a madman. After ensuring the computer's chip was completely destroyed, I calmly picked up a chair. The teacher and classmates had all fled, leaving only Zeke watching the spectacle. He frowned at me. Xiaoyu, stop this nonsense. My bodyguards are downstairs. If you keep causing trouble, Father will punish you. When that happens, even I won't be able to protect you. He didn't get a reply, only the heavy blow of me swinging the chair into his face. Back when I knocked the cigarette out of Ziku's hand last time, I'd already collected a sample of his blood. This person who shares direct blood ties with me is my half-brother. Kill you, and I become Marcus Gu's sole legitimate heir. Zeke Gu's head was covered in blood, his once arrogant eyes now filled with terror. He must have been utterly bewildered. How could someone who was submissive and running errands for him just this morning suddenly turn so violent? Xiaoyu, He didn't finish. I grabbed a chair and swung it at him, first at his limbs, then his torso, and finally his head, blow after blow. At first, he could still scream curses and threaten that I was dead, but soon, he couldn't even beg for mercy, just coughing up blood with his mouth agape. By the time Zeke's bodyguards rushed upstairs, I had already wiped my clothes clean and removed fingerprints from the chair, then curled into a corner, hugging my knees. The bodyguards stared in shock at me, sobbing helplessly, and the pool of blood on the floor. Where's the young master? I pointed out the window, crying even more pitifully. Big brother was taken away. An hour later, I was brought back to the villa. Mother didn't appear. Only Marcus Gu and a group of uniformed personnel moved about. Obediently, I began recounting what had happened for the fourth time. It was my brother who told me to strip naked during class and burn everything with the computer. He said he would punish me if I didn't do as he said. At this point, I lower my head awkwardly, 2 teardrops rolling down from my eyes. But right after I burned the things, a group of people burst in and took my brother away. They left by helicopter. I was so scared, and I couldn't hear what they said. Then, I started screaming, terrified. I hid in the corner of the sofa and threw everything within sight. Don't come near me. You're not my brother. Stay away. There was a professional medical team in the villa who, under Marcus Gu's direction, conducted rounds of examinations on me. The young lady's psyche was already more fragile than most. This shock may affect her life going forward. Marcus Gu was so furious, he grabbed a vase and hurled it across the room. Medication, injections, or machines. Do whatever it takes to stabilize her mental state. I need to know where Zeke is. Watching Marcus Gu's rage-filled outburst filled me with immense satisfaction. Since childhood, he'd always carried himself like a master of all, as if every person and event were under his control, forever composed, forever looking down from above. Father, this unhinged version of you is quite a sight to behold. No one would ever guess that Ziku was right here in this villa, hidden away in my room. I returned to my room, opened the wardrobe, and there he was, Zeke, bound and trapped inside. I looked at him and said with a smile, "Brother, this sedative was prescribed by my doctor. How about you get a shot too?" Then I uncapped the needle, injected the full dose into his lower body, and shut the wardrobe door with a smile. "Good night, brother. Sweet dreams." Who the hell is behind this? Marcus Gu paced frantically around his study, chain, smoking, and pouring himself drink after drink in agitation. It could be the Siez, or perhaps the Muse. Anyone in the business world is a possibility. The one person he'd never suspect is me, his daughter, who just turned 15 and was about to become his next obsession. The daughter whose mind had already been shattered by fear. For a whole month, Marcus Gu shut himself in his study, summoning experts from all over to search, stirring up several cities, yet finding nothing. Watching his grand, frantic efforts, I nodded quietly to myself. Truly, the prized heir of the Gu family, so very precious. Marcus didn't attend the island gathering at the beginning of the month. Shan Xia came to the villa to pick me up dressed in a tailcoat, even thoughtfully bringing a bouquet of flowers. Drugged into numbness, I mechanically accepted the roses and obediently slid into the car. But Sean seemed disappointed, turning to the doctor treating me. "Xia, I think she's more exciting without the medication." The doctor obediently pulled a pill from his white coat. "Feed him this, and he'll be fine. Don't be too cruel. The child is still young." Xia took the medicine with satisfaction. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." Before starting the sports car, he turned to me with a smile. "Zoe, Father Xia will give you an unforgettable birthday tonight." I nodded obediently, my fingers brushing the butterfly knife hidden in my sleeve. "Father, I have a gift for you too." The gathering was held on a small island in international waters. For such a private affair, Xia brought only 2 bodyguards. After stepping off the golf cart, he took my hand and slowly led me into the banquet hall. Many people had already arrived. Some women were even seated at the main table. They held champagne or cigars. Eyeing me with keen interest, Xia raised my hand and announced with a laugh, "Everyone, our final treasure of the evening, Zoe Gu." Amid applause, Xia left me standing alone as the center of the floor slowly rose. Many boys and girls around my age were being led toward the steps. About 20 children, dressed in assigned lavish outfits, stared fearfully at the dazzling, luxurious setup before them. Jade Jin's furious voice crackled through the invisible earpiece. "Damn it, a bunch of beasts, bloody monsters." Harsh lights shone down on us, treating us like display items to be appraised and priced. A moment later, a gentle female voice came through the microphone. "Respected players, our treasure hunt night will begin in 1 minute. Please select your tools and targets. The hunt will commence once the countdown ends." This hunt's most valuable treasure was acquired by NSA Biopharma at the cost of 5% of its shares. Due to its special value, please handle it with care. Any damage will be compensated at the full market value of the corporation. Now then, players, enjoy the hunt. Countdown begins now. A frantic beeping sound pierced the air, followed by a sharp cry from the stage. "Run!" All the children scrambled down the staircase, like mad. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A voice echoed simultaneously from the microphone and deep within my heart. "Game on." I closed my eyes and activated the function on my contact lenses. "Transmit the structural blueprint of the chateau to me." Soon, a controllable 4D model materialized before my eyes, worth every penny of the 50 million per device. Following the map, I swiftly concealed myself behind a wall in the chateau's passageway. Amidst a hauntingly beautiful melody, my butterfly knife danced and morphed shapes between my fingers. A second later, I murmured in a low tone, "Cut the surveillance." Then I darted out, colliding face to face with a portly man who had just rounded the corner. Before his gasp could escape, I clamped a hand over his mouth and drove the blade into his carotid artery with the other. After about 5 seconds, he stopped struggling, and the rope he'd been clutching fell to the ground. He was the first. While I dealt with these scum inside the chateau, Jade Jean had already led the mercenaries to clear out the perimeter guards. Her somewhat cold voice came through the earpiece. "If I die, take care of my sister for me." I grunted in agreement. "If I die, get my mother out." The music gradually built to its climax as I hid in the corner, ready to strike and eliminate those so-called players. Blood slowly crept across my body, neck, and eyes. I couldn't tell anymore who was more like a demon, them or me. The lights in the chateau began to flicker, and from some hidden rooms came the struggling cries of children and the nauseating gasps of adults. I gritted my teeth. "Get me a gun." Jade Jean laughed again, the sound mingling with the staccato bursts of an AK on her end. "Not using your little knife anymore. I've told you before. Outside 7 paces. A gun is faster. Inside 7 paces." The shots were precise and swift. With 2 thuds, she swiftly swapped in a fresh magazine. East of the chateau's basement lies the armory. Along the way, I managed to save a few children, urging them to hide and stay silent. "Sister, are you a superhero?" A little girl asked me this, her bright eyes filled with fear and confusion. I pointed her in a direction and placed the butterfly knife in her hand. "Aim for the bad guy's eye. You only get 1 chance. Don't be afraid." Keep your hands steady and quick. I took out 6 guards in the tunnels and secured a shotgun, 2 pistols, and a Gatling gun. Oh, and a whole row of grenades too. It was heavy, and I started feeling grateful for Jade Jean making me run with weights every day. All that suffering paid off. Just as I stepped out of the armory, I ran into Sean Xia and Ethan Moo, who'd likely come down for guns, sensing trouble. I smiled. They were horrified. Xiao Yu? Sean Xia barely recognized me from my blood. Free clothes, then stumbled back 2 steps. These things are dangerous. Zoe, hand them over to Dad first. I nodded, pulled out the pistol, and gave each of them 2 shots to the kneecaps. As if not realizing I could be so ruthless, they began cursing me while crying out for their parents. Shit, Zoe Goo, are you insane? Ethan Moo quickly regained consciousness, dragging his legs as he crawled toward me. Zoe, I'm your dad. Dad will take you out. Dad will protect you. Okay? I rolled my eyes helplessly, watching him glance toward the armory. I raised the gun again, aiming at their foreheads. Crawl west. Whoever crawls slowest dies. Countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. Without another word, Ethan Moo gritted his teeth and turned around first, arms alternating as he crawled forward relentlessly. Sean Xia froze for a moment before him, then began crawling too, occasionally throwing things from the ground at Ethan Moo in fear of being overtaken. I watched their dog-like behavior with a smile, yet the hatred in my heart did not diminish. When they finally couldn't crawl any further, I saw the little girl clutching the butterfly knife to her chest. She was already dead, having just passed, blood still flowing from her head. Beside her lay a pink baseball bat, its end adorned with some disgusting decorations. I crouched down and wiped a trace of blood from her face with my hand. I never got to ask your name, silly girl. I'm not a superhero. Looking at the knife in her hand, I cursed under my breath. Seems you never learned how to use it. Let me teach you. I grabbed Ethan Moo by the hair and dragged his ugly face closer. See, the throat, nose, and eyes are their weakest spots. If you hate their arrogant eyes, do it like this. I held the little girl's hand with my other hand, the knife gripped in hers. Like this. Slowly push it in. Ethan Moo was screaming, his hands frantically clawing at my arm. It hurt a bit, so I pulled the knife out of his eye and swiftly severed all the tendons in his hands and feet. Perhaps my blood-soaked appearance terrified Sean Xia. His eyes widened, and he even forgot to run. I slowly moved closer to him. I understand now. When you tied Mother to the bed and humiliated her with all sorts of tools, did it feel this satisfying too? It seems I truly carry your bloodline within me. Torturing you all brings me such joy. Ignoring Jade Jin's shouts calling me a freak, I plunged the knife into Ethan Moo's lower body. Then I quickly stood up, tore a piece of my skirt, and covered the little girl's eyes. You can't watch this part. Using a gun was much simpler. I carried that Gatling gun out of the tunnel and fired a few shots at anyone I saw. No one could dodge this thing. What a fine weapon. Jade Jean and the mercenaries had also dealt with the people outside and came in to join me. See, they can only play the tough guy for a few minutes in front of unarmed children. I looked at Jade Jin's disheveled state and curled the corner of my mouth. Seems it was a bit tough out there. Good thing I chose the inside. She took a roll of gauze from her companion and quickly wrapped it around her arm, rolling her eyes at the same time. Extra pay, 10,000 per bullet. I nodded. Once I kill Marcus Goo, I'll give you a bonus. As agreed, I distributed all the cash and jewelry on the island to the mercenaries. All the players who came to hunt had been killed by me. The survivors were 9 children, 3 boys and 6 girls. Jade Jean asked me what to do with the island, so I untied the grenade from my waist. Blow it up. Mother's story took place 18 years ago. Back then, she was just a young girl who had newly arrived in the city from the countryside. Because she was exceptionally beautiful, the men in the village were constantly eyeing her. They would whisper vulgar remarks behind her back, seize chances to grope her, and even attempted to trade with her using candies and a cheap cake from the county town. Mother did not yield. She remained vigilant and protected herself at all times. In the end, she held a kitchen knife to her own neck. threatening her parents who wanted to marry her off to the village chief's son. She cried and said, "Let me go out to work, and no matter how much I earn, I'll send it all back home. I beg you." A lifetime of poverty had led her grandparents to believe the village chief was the most powerful figure they knew, and someone who could protect their daughter. They never expected Mother to resist so fiercely. Mother successfully made it to the big city, where she found a sales job with a low base salary but commissions. The boss squinted and told her, "The more you work, the more you earn." Back then, she was still rejoicing over how smoothly she had adapted to the unfamiliar environment, oblivious to the boss's lecherous gaze. Mother said that spreading salacious rumors is the best way to destroy a woman. Without doing anything wrong, she would be labeled as a mistress or a gold digger. She was ostracized and suppressed, living in a rental room smaller than 5 square meters, eating every meal with tears in her eyes, until she met Marcus Gu, that radiant man. It's a cliché storyline. During and out of town training, the boss tried to drag Mother into a hotel room. As she fled in panic, she bumped into Marcus Gu. That gentlemanly and handsome man exploded into Mother's barren world like dazzling sunlight. Mother lay in my arms, her emaciated limbs covered in needle marks, her bare feet stained with blood, and behind her stretched a long underground passage, leading to her 18 years of darkness. She told me with a smile, "Zoe, this time, I succeeded in fighting back. I plunged this huge needle into Marcus Gu's eye. I finally climbed out." Mother said that at first, she felt like she had fallen into a fairy tale. Every day was so dreamlike, yet every detail felt utterly real. But she later realized that fairy tales are the most terrifying of all. The prince charming kisses a princess's corpse awake. The king and the sleeping beauty bear 2 children. A maiden falls in love with a beast in a deserted manor. And the night Marcus Gu discovered the genetic secret hidden within her. My daughter. I'm sorry. Mother was too afraid and too lonely. So I selfishly wanted to give birth to you. I thought you were his biological daughter, that he would treat you well. This time, Mother didn't shed tears. All the life within her was withering away bit by bit. Her eyes, usually brimming with tears, now held endless pain and confusion. Our genes are different from normal people's. Our telomeres are slightly longer than average, so we heal faster and even age very slowly. At first, Marcus Gu could only think of one way to keep himself energized. So he began investing in biotech firms and deliberately sought out world-class pharmaceutical conglomerates. For profit, he shared Mother with the heirs of the Xia and Mu families. Through brainwashing and conditioning, they turned Mother into an obedient pet. It wasn't until a few years ago that they discovered this telomere could be inherited with low probability and extracted through blood. So they sold me to S&A Group in exchange for a world-class team to continue researching Mother's blood. Once they confirmed my physique was identical to Mother's, they drained her blood without regard for her life. Xiaoyu, run away quickly. Don't let them find you. Don't end up like Mother. These were the last words Mother said to me. Her arm fell silently, her eyes still open, as if longing for one last glimpse of the world outside. I exhaled a heavy breath from deep within my chest and wiped the tears from my face. Don't be afraid, Mother. They're all going to hell. I placed Mother into Jade Jin's arms, then slowly descended the stairs. The basement reeked of blood. All the bags that had contained Mother's blood had ruptured, flooding the floor with her crimson life. Marcus Gu suddenly leaped from behind the door, thrusting a needle toward my eye with terrifying speed. At the very last moment, I caught his wrist with one hand, freezing his stabbing motion mid-air. I was prepared for a moment like this. You have no idea how inhumanely she trained me for strength contests with men. Beneath my slender arms, well-defined muscles bulged clearly with each exertion. I twisted his wrist backward and dragged him forcefully up the stairs. Haven't you been searching endlessly for your son? Let me take you to him. Marcus Gu lost his mind when he saw his son collapsed inside the activated carbon-filled wardrobe. He alternated between weeping and hysterical laughter. His left eye was already gouged out, now weeping tears on one side and blood on the other. A truly grotesque sight. I pressed his head down. When I was sent to the island, my brother was still alive. I imagine he kept wondering, when would Daddy come find me? After all, I was right here in the villa, right above his head. Would Daddy ever come to his little sister's room? When would Daddy visit his little sister's room? What a shame. Not only did Daddy never come back, even the servants never set foot in this room. I gazed at the gruesome scene of Ziku's final moments in the wardrobe and laughed with dark satisfaction. Daddy, transfer all the shares under your name to me now, and I'll spare your wife. How about that? I took out my phone and opened a file. Look, your wife is pregnant again. Another boy. It doesn't matter if you refuse. After all, this villa of ours is undetectable, even by satellites. Daddy, I'll stay with you forever. Marcus Gu still transferred all his assets under my name. He was too weak. He couldn't even endure 5 of the torture devices in the basement. I didn't kill him. Instead, I handed him over to the mercenaries I'd worked with before. After all, we share blood ties. He deserved special treatment. I had Mother's ashes made into a diamond pendant, so I can carry her with me wherever I go. Mother, I'm free now, just like the name you gave me. But I still don't know your name. I established a foundation called Freedom. The 9 children rescued from the island formed its initial team. Every year, they traveled to every corner of the world with one sole purpose: to teach children there how to protect themselves and avoid being deceived. The most remarkable among them is Sky. After 3 years of boxing training under Jade Jean, she formed her own team dedicated to rescuing trafficked women and children. She said with a smile, "Sis, I want to be a superhero like you too. I want to appear out of nowhere when someone's in despair and whisk them away." I fled in embarrassment amidst Jade Jin's roaring laughter. Cut down on those sci-fi movies. What's superhero nonsense? I'm clearly just a girl too.